Hey everyone, David Wright here, host of the Disruptive Innovators podcast, coming to you live from CCW in Las Vegas, where we've been talking to some of the sharpest minds in customer experience. This stretch of content is brought to you by Sonus, the real-time speech AI platform that's tearing down communication barriers, cutting through noise, and closing language gaps so that every conversation comes through exactly the way it was meant to be heard. They're doing genuinely cool work in the space, so do yourself a favor and pay attention. And Authentics, the conversation intelligence platform built specifically for healthcare, taking millions of patient and customer interactions and turning them into insights that actually move the needle on experience and operations. If you care about understanding what your patients are really telling you, these are the folks to watch, and we hope you enjoy the content. Good afternoon, friends. David Wright here, and I'm your host of the Disruptive Innovators Champions of Digital Business podcast, coming to you live from CCW in Las Vegas. And in this moment, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Sarina Allen. Sarina, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to learn more about what you guys are up to. Before we get into anything, I just want to shout out our sponsors. So Sonus is a real-time speech and AI platform that removes communication barriers, eliminates noise, and closes language gaps, ensuring every global conversation is heard exactly the way it was meant to be. And Authentics, which is an AI-powered conversation intelligence platform purpose-built for healthcare, turning millions of patient and customer interactions into actionable insights that improve experience and operations. So thank you to our sponsors. And back to you, Sarina. So to kick us off, tell us a little bit about yourself and the customer experience your organization manages.
Sure. So I work for a company called Vitalant, and we are the second largest blood bank provider in the United States. Obviously, just hearing that, you can tell we're mission critical operation. We service all different hospitals throughout the country, and customer experience is by far like key for retention.
Yeah.
We have less than 3% of the population that actually donates blood for
Wow.
whatever reason. So it's not like we have people banging on the door, to come in and provide that life-saving product. So it's really important for us to create an environment and a culture where people feel valued and appreciate it, and they can connect themselves to the greater purpose of giving blood to either extend or save a life.
Do you guys go to market as a for-profit or non-for-profit?
We're a nonprofit organization.
Very cool. I mean, amazing mission.
Mhm.
And what brought you to CCW this year? And like, have you been before?
Yeah, so this is my first time. I was actually reached out to by CCW to present, and I agreed to do it. And then one of the vendors that we actually work for also asked me to present. So I'm presenting twice. Just did one, have one more today, and that's what brought me. But I mean, honestly, everybody knows about CCW. It's like the mecca of contact center and customer experience conferences. So
Sure.
I was excited to attend.
Yeah. No, this is actually my first time, which is crazy to me. I guess I've just been under the hood the last number of years, so I'm excited to be here as well. Here's one thing I really like asking. What's one thing that you think every CX leader should be focused on, or maybe isn't getting enough airtime right now? Either something that you're hearing at the conference or, just in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, everything is AI right now.
Right.
And honestly, as much as that's great, I get tired of hearing about it. I think it's fun, it's fascinating, it's evolving, it's constantly moving, and so it's at the top of everybody's mind. But I think we need to get back to the customer journey. I think we need to go deeper into softwares and how they integrate with different platforms. I really like to get into the nitty-gritty of how technology is supporting, but like the ugliness that comes with technology, because it's not all just like buy a product and put it in and it works. And so I think that that's one thing that if I can change, we would go a little bit deeper into the basics and kind of back to the environment where you're talking about the user experience, but also just the resources needed to provide that right type of user experience. And, ultimately, I don't think we talk about that enough.
Agreed. And building off that, I would also argue that we don't necessarily talk enough about like the cultural changes required, or
Absolutely.
the organizational change management aspects.
Absolutely.
You get a lot of vendors who want to sell their platform or their product. Some may like know healthcare or know your industry, but they really understand the workflow, the operations.
Yeah, the end-to-end user experience, right?
The way people have done things for the last 15 years that may need to shift. Am I spending the time being with them, making them feel heard, making them feel seen, so that I can translate and like help them really own the change, right?
For sure.
So it's coming from their perspective and they're not put on.
Yeah. And then how do you partner, right? So some leaders, technology and the IT team, it all sits with them.
Right.
In my case, it's a partnership. I
Love that.
own the technology. And so I have a team that actually implements the tool, and we are now starting to partner more with our IT team. And what does that look like? How do you break up roles and responsibilities? What does that mean in that environment where they also need to understand the business enough where they can support, but they're not supporting full scale? So I just think that there's something there.
There is. And it's cool that you brought that up, because in the last number of years, in a lot of industries where, you know, maybe they were like the classic late adopter industries, like healthcare being one of them, for the right reasons.
Right.
We're seeing more and more teams that were classically like operational in nature be empowered to own these technology solutions.
Yeah.
Because the technology, you know, the operating and upkeeping the technology and you know, affecting change within the platform, it's become more democratized, such
For
that
sure.
you know, people that aren't, you know, as opposed to like, you know, building in old like Cisco and Avaya telephony platforms, you'd need to just be like an expert in that, you know.
Yep.
But is IT willing to let go of that a little bit, such that they can empower other people and have their hand on their back? You know, shout out to like Cedars-Sinai. They do like a really great job of that. And we're seeing more and more of that. So the point is that I think that's amazing, that your organization is doing that. So to that end, you know, closer to home, what are some of the things that either you're most excited about, or some initiatives that are on your mind leading into the end of this year, early next year? Like, what's on your roadmap?
You know, our organization has a 5-year strategic plan, and it's to bring in technology as a resource to support humans. And I'm excited to crack that code, right? That's new. So AI is a big piece of it.
Sure.
The other piece that I'm always looking at and trying to improve is our call experience, because as you know, it's getting harder and harder to make calls and get answers. With spam, we have all kinds of challenges that are, I mean, it literally is against us.
Yeah.
So what it forces us as leaders is to think outside the box. It's not necessarily your old school way of thinking where it is all about a call placement or incoming call. How do you get smarter, and how do you bring in some tools that will actually add and be an additive to your strategic plan? So for me, I'm just kind of thinking of ways that we can socialize in a bigger capacity than just typical phone, and whether that be social media or digital presence, working with marketing. You just have to think outside the box in order to keep the customer.
I love that. Yeah. How do I create a highly personalized, radically convenient, compassionate experience
That's right.
for my customer?
Yeah.
And you know, it's what you mentioned makes me think about you know, a conversation I was having not last night, but the night before, the first night we got here, with a gentleman, and we were talking about the fact that even within a given like state, you could have a localized municipality. Like, my mind goes to like Georgia, because I spent a lot of time in Georgia, like Atlanta metro versus, you know, not. Some folks might want to be dialed by a branded toll-free number. Some folks might want a local Annie.
Yep.
Some folks might prefer a text. Some might prefer a call.
Yeah.
So like, how am I personalizing that experience for that specific customer?
Yeah.
So they're being communicated via the channel that they want to communicate with, how they want to communicate. And it's not as easy as age demographics either, right?
It's not. There is a science to it.
Yeah.
And So I had some success in this area. I was kind of faced with some of the same questions. So I went out and I found a anti-rotation service. And it's actually been really beneficial. We saw our connect rates go up like 10%.
Wow.
So we were averaging somewhere around 12 to 16%. Now we're around 22 to 26% on any given day.
That's amazing.
It's been completely life-changing for us because we're getting hold of the donor. And so then the agents just have to focus on closing. But with that, it came with a ton of analytics, to your point. Do you use a toll-free number? Do you use a local number? When does that local number die down where you need to switch it out? How many dials per local number so that you don't wind up in spam?
Right.
It gives you geographical data. So it's just a really, really cool tool. And I think that some leaders may overlook that piece of it, or you're leaning too much on your CCAS provider to provide those recommendations.
Right.
Where it is, I would say, in your best interest to really face that head on.
Yeah.
Be proactive and try and find an organization that can support your efforts in that, and you would probably see a high return.
I love
like
that.
We did.
And I love like what you said about like not necessarily being beholden to like the platform that you're on. Like kind of what I heard was like thinking outside the box, right?
Absolutely.
Like if I have a problem or an opportunity to address, like, let me go figure it out.
Go figure it out. You have to, because what's the other outcome,
Yeah.
right? And for us, again, in the blood banking world, it's not like we have people just sitting there waiting for us to call. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh God, you want my blood again? Like high vibe vampires, right? Like you hear everything. And so it was really important for us to be able to increase those connect rates, because we don't want to overcall our
Right.
customer. We actually want to be able to do it at a convenience to them, but also be able to meet our inventory demand. And so our goal there was like, if we get more connects and we schedule the appointments off the connects, then we can start to balance out our rotation of our call lists and start giving it breaks here and there on certain blood types. Certain blood types you don't, depends on your blood type.
Right.
But it does give you more of the control versus the list controlling you. You get back in the seat of controlling the list.
Love that. That's a good soundbite. So 2 last questions for Sarina that I like to ask all my guests. First would be, if you could go back 5, 10, 15 years in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh my God. So much. Go to therapy. No.
Just saying.
I'm just joking.
I'm not.
I think I would say be confident in your ability. I was my younger self knew I could add a ton of value and didn't take as many risks. And so I would have probably taken some of those risks, even as a younger director, sooner rather than later, because I've been able to see a return on any risk that I've taken. And that's a blessing. There's been a lot of learnings in that, but more good than bad. And I would absolutely tell yourself, like, girl, you got this. You are fierce. You're Beyonce. No. So like, you got to just, trust in yourself and your ability.
Love that. And then one piece of actionable advice you might look to leave the listeners or your fellow attendees with.
Yeah. I had a technology advisor that was really helpful for me. I don't think a lot of people realize that they can do that.
Yeah.
It literally didn't cost me anything. So it was like an additional resource that I didn't have to pay for to help me.
Yeah.
If you are in a position where you are balancing operations and you're also responsible for either the partnership and or the technology, get a technology advisor. Get the support that you need to help you really like vet through these contracts and these vendors, because everybody's going to sell you their best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as leaders, because you're busy managing your day-to-day, you don't always have the time to really look and dive deep into that. So having a strong technology advisor completely helps support that process. One of the best things that I ever did.
Wow. That's great. I didn't pay her to say that either. Sarina, this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next bit. Good afternoon, friends. David Wright here, and I'm your host of the Disruptive Innovators Champions of Digital Business podcast. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by our friend Chad. Chad, pleasure to have you.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Um, and Chad, I just want to shout out our sponsors here quickly. Sonus, firstly and foremost, is the real-time speech AI platform that removes communication barriers, eliminates noise, and closes language gaps, ensuring every global conversation is heard exactly the way it was meant to be. And Authentics is an AI-powered conversation intelligence platform purpose-built for healthcare, turning millions of patient and customer interactions into actionable insights that improve experiences and operations. So thank you to them for their sponsorship. And to kick us off, Chad, can you introduce the listeners to yourself, your role, and maybe the customer experience that you manage today?
Yeah, so my name is Chad Anderson. I'm the head of customer care and roadside operations for Mercedes-Benz. And currently, I manage not only our outsourced BPO operations, but really kind of digging into customer insights to be able to provide tangible feedback to cross-functional departments, as well as leading cultural transformation.
Wow. Well, I like I told you kind of offline, very excited, big fan of Mercedes, have been for many years. So it's an honor to have you and your organization represented on my humble podcast. So Chad, let's start. Just what brought you to CCW? How did you find out about it? Is it your first year here?
So yes, this is my first year at CCW. I've always wanted to come. And then for this particular year, I was actually invited to be a speaker.
Wow.
So I facilitated a think tank earlier this morning in regards to why manager KPIs are broken, just really challenging leaders to really to think about, we talk about how AI is going to change the role of our human employees, right? And so we also need to kind of look at how we evaluate the managers and what does success look like? Are these scorecards obsolete? What are some of the newer metrics, now that, the agents are going to be handling more complex issues where emotional intelligence and critical thinking are going to be more important. So to start that conversation, right? And then tomorrow I'm going to be on a panel titled the Contact Center Kill List. What things will we get rid of if we had our way? So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Wow, that's super cool. Well, I'm excited to. I've been kind of stuck here in the catacombs, but I'm excited to check out that content as it comes out. And here's another thing that I love asking: what's one thing that you think every CX leader should be paying attention to right now that maybe isn't getting enough airtime, or that you just like to highlight while we have you?
Yes, the biggest thing that I speak about all the time is the focus on people. We talk so much about investing in technology, but we never really talk about how much we're investing in our people because, as we all realize now that humans aren't going away.
Right.
And especially as we implement AI more and more, our human employees, right, are going to have new skill sets that they need to develop.
Sure.
And a lot of employees are apprehensive, right? Unless you're someone that is really techie or just really curious, you may be left behind, it may be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things that we're asking our employees to do now is kind of outside of their original job scope, right? So there could be some fear of the unknown. So it's just really important to give your employees grace as we make this transition. It's new to them.
Yep.
A lot of times they're not in these conversations that we're having and kind of understanding the inner workings of AI. So I would say really spend a lot of time, just as much as you're investing in your tech stack, but invest in your employees and give them grace and really work with them as they make this transition into accepting AI into their daily workflows.
Yeah. I mean, well said, really well said. And I think I brought this up on one of the previous episodes or excerpts, but yeah, I recently read about IKEA implementing a bunch of AI. It made some thousands of agents kind of like unneeded, but they redirected them to helping customers with a design function. I actually didn't read the whole thing, but basically the fact that they upskilled them, they helped them, with conversations with customers that were more complex, that human interaction was of more value, and it drove revenue for the organization.
Yes, and I love that.
Yeah.
I saw that story as well, and it kind of made me smile to really to see an organization that really kind of focused that, because you see, a lot of organizations they implement AI and get rid of their workforce,
Yeah.
and to really to see that they kind of repurposed and really not only were they able to repurpose their existing workforce, it was able to generate more revenue for them. So
It's amazing.
hopefully more organizations will follow in line with IKEA.
Same. I hope to see that. It was really, um, it felt really good to see that they were doing that. Closer to home, what's one initiative that you're either excited about or that, leading into the second half of this year or early next year is top of mind for you and your team?
I think the most exciting thing for me is working on the cultural transformation within our organization.
Mm,
I think that what if a lot of people look over is that, AI is not going to fix a broken culture. And not necessarily saying our culture was broken, right?
I get it.
But, it's not going to fix broken processes, and so a lot of times organizations need to focus on fixing their culture because the only thing that AI is going to amplify what is already broken. And people misinterpret that to saying that the AI is not working when it's that the organization wasn't ready.
Yep.
So as we have this focus to be more customer oriented to help us achieve our strategic goals, we're also being able to kind of incorporate AI in there as well. So I'm really excited about that. Really working with leaders and kind of working with them to how to get their teams to be able to adapt just to the shift to the environment, not just with technology, but just with everything that's kind of going on economically and also within the automobile industry.
Well said again. Um, it reminds me, I know you guys are based in Atlanta. You're based in Atlanta. There's a gentleman by the name of Walt Carter. We've had him on a couple times. He's wrote a couple books. Really smart guy, really lovely guy. He on one of our last episodes, he talked about, the correlation, because I brought up a lot of the failure rates in digital transformation that McKinsey and other outfits have reported on for many years, often being upwards of 70%, stuff like that. And he tied it back to another study that talked about uh, disenfranchised employees and the fact that uh, they felt disconnected from the executive vision for the organization and how things were changing and evolving. And it's, to me, that's all culture. It's all culture, right? It's how am I making people feel included in what we're doing and enrolled in what we're doing. And so I really appreciate that you guys are taking that tack, because as someone who was a technologist first and then has moved into more of a role where I'm advising more on operations and workflow and all of that. I now, after years of therapy and personal growth myself, truly see the value in really heavy emphasis on the cultural and the people aspect of things. I mean, if I roll a technology solution out, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, and everyone thinks it sucks, then it sucks.
Mhm.
Like the success of the project is in the perception of the people that are going to be using the technology.
Yeah. And I also kind of think, especially like in the contact center space, right? So if you have agents that aren't using their tools now, if you implement an AI solution, they're still not going to use it, right?
Right.
And I think that there's probably even a lot more pushback on utilizing the AI tool because it's like, okay, here's another tool that I have to use. And this fear of AI may replace me. And so I think that it's really important to kind of work on that culture, and especially with the front line, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of apprehension on using the tools and really getting them outside of their comfort zone. And I just kind of liken it to some people still think that AI is kind of like the Jetsons. You press a button, Rosie comes out and presents everything, right?
Right.
And so when they're at work and they use it, it takes a little bit more work, to kind of get the right outputs and things of that nature. And so it's really a shift. And a lot of times, what as we as leaders are expecting our employees to do is kind of outside of their scope. And someone else was using that before. So it kind of goes back to kind of having that compassion and that grace and that understanding, because again, they're not in those conversations that we have. So it's really important to kind of include them in those conversations as much as possible.
All right, Jad. Two final questions for you. First would be, if you could go back 5, 10, even 15 years in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh, I think that that's a really good question. I would say the advice that I would give my younger self is to believe in yourself.
Mm,
You know, I feel that I'm a very resilient person, but it was kind of tough, right? And it shows that everything kind of works out in the end.
so
And I
true.
think that as I've seen a lot of growth in my career, it comes as a result of having confidence and believing in myself. And just because a particular person or an organization doesn't value what you have to offer, doesn't mean that you don't add value. And it's to go where you're appreciated, where you're wanted. And that kind of how I got into kind of speaking is because, I started posting on LinkedIn because I'm like, somebody's going to listen to what I have to say and to kind of really see the response to that. And then also, within the organizations that I work for, as I kind of become a thought leader on social media and speaking at conferences, kind of how my voice carries a lot more weight now. So I would say believe in yourself, be confident, and go where you're valued.
Yeah, I love that. It's great. It's great advice. For me, I suffered from, imposter syndrome, fear of failure for years, right? And I was just catching up with a colleague of mine in the UK because now we're working with the NHS and other organizations in the United Kingdom, which, like, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Um, and we were talking just about how it's amazing how, like, your knowledge slowly accumulates over time just based on your experiences, and then you have value to bring to the table. So I think it's, for me, it's like exactly what you said: be confident, be humble,
Mhm.
right? So I can still be a lifelong learner, um, but be confident and step into that and ask the next question. And I think also, like, am I asking my leadership for continued opportunities, growth, like mentorship, whatever it might look like? For me, that's also really crucial.
Yeah, and as I kind of look back and to kind of see, I think those challenges that I faced, those failures, the denials for those promotions, that resilience that it built, it helped me make who I am today. So I don't think
100%.
that I would be able to have the insights or the success that I had today without those challenges. So that's what I tell a lot of people because they just think that everything is just perfect and all of that. And it's been a very, very rough road, but kind of pressure makes diamonds, right? And so I kind of embrace all of the challenges that I faced in my past. So I would just continue to encourage myself.
I love that. Yeah, the darkest moments for me, personally, professionally, otherwise, um, always brought the most transformation on the other side if I just leaned into it. And what it's taught me too is, like, to get more comfortable being uncomfortable. Because I used to push away discomfort and be scared of it and run away from it.
Mhm.
And now I can sit in it more, which is a skill,
Yes.
a learned skill. So it's great advice. Last question for you, Chad, would just be, um, one piece of actionable advice you might look to leave the listeners and, our colleagues here at CCW with for today.
What I would say is, as we move forward and become more technology focused, never forget about your employees. Never forget about the humans, really making sure that you're investing with them because we all now realize, everyone that was saying that AI is going to replace everybody, they're all now walking it back and kind of
Right.
saying, well, no, we're not going to need that.
Not
And really
everybody.
just, yeah, just really just to kind of, continue to invest
Yeah.
in your employees because that's going to be the success of any type of technology solution that you implement. And then overall, it's going to make a better customer experience.
Boom. This has been amazing, Chad. I think we might have to get you on the full length podcast because I think this could keep going. But for now, just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming out.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next bit.